Hey guys, I'm Liz. This is my Coleman Rugged Rechargeable lantern. Here are all the different tests and experiments that I did with this lantern. You can find everything you need to know on the screen here, and I'll also let you know all the pros and cons of this lantern towards the end of this video, so do stick around for that. For now, let's get straight into the first point, and that's the unboxing. This is what the Coleman lantern looks like brand new. I bought it off Amazon and had it shipped to me in Singapore where I live. And of course, I took all the shots of the packaging and the unboxing if you want to check it out. Now, here's the actual unboxing of this lantern. The next question is, what do we get in the box? Here we have some instructions, of course the lantern itself, and at the bottom of the lantern, you'll also find a secret compartment here that holds the provided charging cable right here. It also comes with a USB adapter to fit the charging cable in, which I have unfortunately lost because I never use it. This Coleman lantern has a partial charge out of the box, so you can use it right away. But I would recommend still charging it before taking it on your camping trip, and here's how to do that. At the back of this lantern, you'll find this black rubber flap here. Peel it off from the top like this, and inside you'll find two charging ports. The top is a micro USB port, and that's for charging up this lantern, or basically, that's a charging input. The bottom is a regular USB port, and we'll talk about that in the next test. For now, grab the provided cable that came with this lantern. It should have a regular USB at one end and a micro USB at the other end. Stick the micro USB end into the input port of the lantern, like so. After that, plug the other end into any power port you have at home. This is the reason I don't need the provided adapter that comes from Coleman, because I just plug it into the fitted USB port here. If you have the adapter, though, you can use a 2-pin or a 3-pin plug and fit the USB into the other end of the adapter. And after you get the lantern plugged in, see this little light indicator at the back of the lantern? This will turn red, which means that the lantern is charging. When the lantern is done charging, the light at the back will turn, and this is what it'll look like. And how long did this lantern take to charge? For me, that was about 6 hours and 15 minutes. Now that we're done with the charging input, let's talk about the charging output. Remember this regular USB port that I promised to talk about? That's the charging output, so you can charge your devices like your mobile phones. All you have to do is to take the charging cable of your phone, plug it into the back here. Mine's a lightning cable because I have an iPhone 12, and then you plug your phone in. When you do so, the indicator light at the back will turn red, and that means your phone's charging. On the first day, I started the charging off at about 34% on my phone. 1 hour in, 71% charge on my phone. 1.5 hours in, 88% charge. Slightly more than 2 hours in, I've got a 97% charge, and here's where I plugged my phone out. On the second day, I started the charging again at about 26%. And at about 40 minutes in, the charging stopped at about 42%. Okay, so here's all the info that we have on this Coleman lantern. Day 1, my phone charged from 34 to 97%, which is a total charge of 63%, and it took about 2 hours and 5 minutes. Day 2, my phone charged from 26% to 42%, which is a total charge of 16%, and it took about 40 minutes. Altogether, my phone charged about 79%, which is just about one full charge of my iPhone 12. That's not all, I also had some leftover juice for some lighting, which is about 45 minutes on the high mode, or about 3.5 hours on the low mode. I couldn't find any info on the battery capacity of this lantern, but based on the charging pattern and the leftover light, I would estimate it to be about 3,500 to 4,000 milliampere hour. I could be very wrong about this though, so don't quote me on that. One more thing to note, the second day of charging was pretty bad. The connection near the end of the charging was super spotty. It kept disconnecting and reconnecting, and I think once your phone starts doing that, that means the battery is pretty low. Now that we're done talking about the charging, let's talk about the light modes that this lantern has. In the middle of the lantern, you'll see this light switch thingy. It says off in the middle, low to the left, and high to the right. And that's literally all you need to know. If you've seen some of my previous lantern reviews with insane light modes that take some getting used to, well, this Coleman lantern is a piece of cake. It's a very simple lantern to use. It's just low and high, low and high. Nothing else you need to know. And since we're on the topic, what exactly is the lumen output of this lantern? I found this info during the unboxing. It's supposed to be 400 lumens on high and 100 on low. Let's find out if that's accurate. For my testing, I'm going to be using this meter to read the number of lumens, so keep an eye on the face here because I'll try to show you the results. On the low mode, we have a reading of about 178 lumens. I'll turn it towards you, see if you can catch the reading in that split second because it'll drop immediately when I turn to face the camera. Now, on the high mode, I've got a reading of about 675 lumens, and again, try to catch the reading when I turn it to face you. Now that we've got all the readings, here's how my readings compare to the official specs as well in this table right here. I suspected that the high mode was definitely not 400 lumens. The moment I turned it on, it was way too bright for that. And my testing backed up what I thought, and it came in at nearly 70% more than it was supposed to. I think that's a good thing because you get more light than what you paid for. As for the low mode, it's a little bit higher than what I was expecting, but it wasn't too inaccurate, I suppose. Closely related to the lumen outputs, we've also got the run times of each mode, and the official specs come in at 4 hours on high and 20 hours on low. I'm going to put the official specs into this table here so you can see 4 and 20 here. And of course I ran the lantern on both the high and low modes, and here are my results. On the high mode, I had a runtime of about 4 hours and 20 minutes, so I'll just put it as 4.25 hours. And on the low mode, I had a runtime of about 20 hours and 45 minutes, so 20.75 hours. So yeah, I'd say the official specs are pretty accurate. Good for you, Coleman. Now, if you notice, we have one more marketed spec we haven't yet tested, and that's the shine distance. On high, we've got 12 meters, and on low, we've got 6 meters. Is this accurate? Of course, we're going to find that out. And here's my Coleman sitting on my tripod right there on the high 675 lumen mode. How far can this lantern throw its light? Here we've got the Coleman lantern, and of course my trusty lux meter again, and I'll show you the face of the meter here. Keep an eye on the face of the meter as I slowly back away from the lantern. I'm so sorry that my shot was so poorly taken. I was more focused on the meter than I was on the camera that I was holding as well. But still, I managed to find the exact location the meter shows a 0 lumen reading, and that's right here. This means the lux meter can no longer detect any light from the lantern at this spot. So this distance here is the tested shine distance from the lantern that came in at about 10 of my footsteps all the way back to the lantern here. Okay, so here's the info that we're working with now. 10 of my footsteps is equal to a distance of about 8.6 feet, which is about 2.6 meters if you need that conversion. Obviously, that's not 12 meters. What about the shine distance on the low mode? Surprisingly, that wasn't too much shorter, coming in at about 6.9 feet or 2.1 meters. The official specs say 6 meters, so it's still a lot less than that, but better than I expected it to be. But wait, it seems like the shine distance isn't too great, but can it light up a tent, and what size tent can it light up? Let's look at the shine distance on low, and remember, that's 6.9 feet. What kind of lighting area does this give us? That's an area of about 149.6 square feet, not to be specific or anything. Now, what is the size of a 6-person tent? I calculated that at about 93 square feet. What about an 8-person tent? That's about 103.5 square feet. As for a 10-person tent, that's a square footage of about 143.6 square feet, still slightly lower than the total lighting area on low. So, even on its low mode, this Coleman lantern can light up a 10-person tent. What about the shine distance on high? That comes in at 8.6 feet, as we calculated in the previous test. This gives us a total lighting area of 232 square feet. This is more than enough for a 12-person tent, and even up to a 14-person tent. That's how good the shine distance is, even though what we calculated was way lower than what the official specs say it's supposed to be. This is my 6-person Coleman tent. My lantern's hanging at the top, and this is what the low output looks like. I'm going to turn it up on high, and this is what the tent looks like from the outside. Very much brighter, of course. Now, we move to the inside of the tent. I'm going to make sure to turn my lantern up on high, and this is roughly what the tent looks like. Everything seems to be decently lighted up. Even when I sit at the edge of my tent to read a book and stuff, you can see everything clearly. Now, let's go ahead and turn it down to the low mode, and this is what the tent looks like on the low mode. Remember, in the previous test, I showed you how even the low mode can light up the entire 6-person tent. Well, check out my book when I'm reading. You can see everything on the page really well, and that's why it's useful to know the shine distance of your lantern. As for the light quality, it definitely feels more like a warm light than a cool light. I don't know the exact light color, but I thought it was a little glaring up close even on the low setting. On the high setting, it's even more glaring, and I thought it could be a little bit more frosted on the inside LED casing, so the light will be softer. It's fine when hanging at the top of the tent, but definitely not up close. Moving along, there is a single handle at the top of the Coleman lantern. It's nice and big, and I found it to be the perfect size for most hands. This handle is one of the best I've ever seen on the lantern and makes it easy and comfy to carry around. I couldn't hook it up to a tent because the handle isn't detachable, but if you use a carabiner to do so, it works fine. And here's what it's like hanging from my Sunder tent. Another feature of this lantern is the charger storage at the bottom. If you look at the bottom, it says turn it to the left to open and to the right to close. Just grip it, turn it a little bit to the left, and you'll find this storage compartment right here. To close it up, just put the base back on the lantern, use a little bit of force to press down on it, and then turn it slowly until it finds the inner groove and sits flat against the lantern base. The weight of this Coleman lantern comes in at about 21.8 ounces. That's just the lantern itself without the charging cable in its base. I can't really weigh that for you because I lost the cable, so for the lantern itself, it's just 619 grams if you need that conversion. As for the pack size, the widest diameter of the lantern is at the top here, and that measures about 5 inches by about 5.5 inches at the top. That's about 12.7 by 14 centimeters, a little bigger on the second dimension because of the handle and the weight here. And the height of the lantern comes in at about 10.5 inches, which is about 26.7 centimeters. The rating on this Coleman lantern is IPX4. This is a water-resistant rating, and that means it's protected from splashing water from any angle, which also means that it should be able to take rain decently well, but it is not 100% waterproof. So to test this out, I put the Coleman lantern through some moderate to heavy rain for about 15 to 30 minutes or so, just to see what happens, and of course, I'll give you all my far away, plus all my close-up shots of this rain test. After that, here's what I noticed. The lantern is still working perfectly fine, but here's why it's not completely waterproof. After I took out the black flap covering the ports at the back, I noticed that the water had gotten in near the port, somehow bypassing the black flap. And also, I opened the storage compartment at the bottom, and wires I kept in there got a little bit wet. And of course, so did the storage cover. You can see water droplets peppered along the entire inside of the cover. And that's not all. When I was drying this lantern off, I noticed water inside the globe itself. Notice how I can't wipe the droplets away? Yeah, that's definitely not waterproof. Another test here is going to be my drop test from hand height, which is about the height that I usually drop my stuff. And after a drop, although the storage at the bottom totally separates from the lantern body and everything inside will drop out, the lantern itself still works perfectly fine. I like that the globe is hard plastic and not glass, so it's a little more durable that way. It has a few minor scrapes, but nothing too bad, not huge breaks or anything like that. I've actually dropped this quite a few times now, not just during this drop test, and it's still fine. I did notice that the bottom storage plastic will scrape off the more you drop this around though. It's also supposed to have an impact-resistant design, which I guess is pretty true since it's still working great after quite a few drops. I also noticed that this lantern has a 3-year warranty, which is way better than the likes of Coleman tents. Somehow, all my Coleman tents come in at only 1 year. For pros, for all of you guys who want a lantern with a simple on-off switch and nothing else, this is probably the way to go. I found this lantern very easy to use. It took me 2 seconds to get a hang of it, unlike the 30 minutes it takes me to learn how to use other lanterns like this Alpenglow from BioLite. There's this single switch in the middle of the lantern that controls all the light modes. It's big enough to turn easily, and it protrudes out so that you can find it easily even in the dark. I also really liked how I've dropped it quite a few times now and it's still working fine, so I guess it kinda does live up to its rugged branding. I also like how it charges via USB instead of using batteries like most Coleman lanterns, so it's very much more environmentally friendly, and also the lifetime LEDs in this lantern never need replacing, or at least that's what Coleman is saying. It's also nice that it charges your phone, though if you want to buy this for that function, please check out the charging output test first. I'll put it on the screen here. You need to know how quickly charging your phone will drain the battery in this lantern. The number of lumens for the max brightness is also very generous, coming in at almost 700 lumens. Well, 675 lumens, not to be specific or anything. The shine distance on high is also big enough to light up even a 14-person tent. And of course, the charging cable storage at the bottom is kind of unique. It's interesting to have, but this lantern can afford to have that cable storage because it's quite a bulky lantern, and that's the least of our problems. There are quite a few reasons why I do not like this lantern. The biggest reason is that there are way too few light modes. The low mode here comes in at 178 lumens, which is way too bright for me at night. If your eyes have already adjusted to the dark, this is freaking blinding. I'm more used to having a 0 to maybe a 10 lumen low output just for a little bit of illumination. And also because the low mode is so bright, the max runtime on this low mode is not even 21 hours. Compared to other lanterns that have a nice 0 lumen output, which I honestly like, and I find it quite helpful as a little nightlight, look at all these extra timings compared to the Coleman. I mean, there's honestly no comparison here, I think. Another light mode the Coleman's missing is a flashing or SOS mode, which most other lanterns have. Another con I noticed is that there's no battery life indicator like most other lanterns have. You can't tell at all how much battery you have left in the Coleman. This tiny light at the back only shows you when it's done charging because it changes from red to green, and that's all the info that you get from this lantern. Overall, if you swear by the Coleman brand and you love their stuff, sure, this is one perfectly functional lantern. It can light up any Coleman tent that you use, but for me, it just doesn't make the cut. Unfortunately, I've been spoiled for choice because I have like 11 other rechargeable lanterns that I prefer a lot more, and you can see how the Coleman compares to all of them in this video on the screen here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in that one.